All right, I think we're live. All right, so welcome everybody. Today's date is July 4th, 2018. So for those who are celebrating it, happy 4th of July. And this is basically how the frack we got here. A combination of things and dates in nature that actually have brought us here today as we try to look into this wonderful travel road we call life. I'm your host, William Buchanan, and what we're going to go over today is just a few stories as far as where we are in the country and just things that they are right now. So before we really hop into that, it's a little hard to celebrate July 4th. And I know for a lot of us, we don't really celebrate the 4th because it's not really our holiday if you think about it. I mean, for a lot of us, like in my case, I would probably be more relatable to Juneteenth than I would the 4th of July, because the last time I checked, the 4th of July, some of us were still bonded in so many ways, but necessarily put that, given the status of where we are in this country, how honestly can anybody celebrate America as a great country so far? I mean, the Gestapo, or I should say ICE, is still detaining children, and there are still 2,000 plus children that are still not with their families. And on top of that, you still have basically our government is basically playing the role of let's undo everything the black president did and call it progress, which is really what it is. If you think about it, Trump, as I say, Agent Orange, has already decided to allow the Great Lakes and lands and many other reserve forests and areas to be pilfered for mining and whatnot. And then there's a word that has come up recently that I think it's funny, that he's trying to bring back the coal mining industry. The coal mining industry is literally a dead industry. It is. It's on the same line with CDs. CDs and vinyl records will eventually die a slow death because digital downloads are taking over. That is just the way of fact. That's the way the business goes. Coal mining not only is cost, because there's no such thing as clean coal. It's just refining coal, and the refining process of coal to make it more environmentally friendly costs so much that not a lot of companies will not actually invest into that. They rather go the old school method, which basically pollutes the environment and reduces wastewater into man-made areas and water and actual water resources that are being used for consumption. They'd rather do that. But when President Obama was in place, this prevented that from happening. So with that also being gone now and that's out the way, I kind of feel like America is open for drilling. Actually, it's kind of funny. If you go back to 2008 presidential election, like the first time President Obama was running for office, you remember McCain and Sarah Palin were all talking about drill, baby, drill. When fracking was the newest, when fracking was the newest thing, and fracking was what's going to turn us around and what's going to get us off depending on foreign oil and all this crap, and not realizing that if we did let fracking go to the route it should have been, we would have been more destructive in our environment than we are with nuclear weapons. Imagine what happened when we elected the black guy and he said, no, we shouldn't be fracking at all. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? So now it's interesting now I can't say it with a straight face. I tried. I can't say President Trump without my stomach turning. Agent Orange, by the way, he is the one that's opening up for business. And I think it is crazy, mind you, that a man in this caliber is literally just undoing. And this is why I said I wish someone would tell him that President Obama already has a space force. Because if we already have a space force, I'm almost certain Trump would turn around in so many ways trying to disable it. Why? Because a black guy beat him to it, which is interesting because he's trying to undo everything the previous administration has done, but yet in some strange twist of events, he's somehow blaming the previous administration for the mess that he has. And that alone is crazy. It's almost like I'm blaming them, but it's also them that are responsible for the situation that I'm in that I caused. It's kind of like saying, I took your car that I built and I modified. Now it's having problems off of my modifications, but it's your car that you gave me. What? And that's exactly what it is. Like, take for instance, which I've noticed, which I did bring up, and I use this clip for a reason because I think this clip kind of explains it all. And I want to bring up this clip, simply put, because I think the simple fact of the matter, it's going to bring up a lot. So let me see if I can get this. This may show, this may not show, because to be kind of honest with you, it's a little bit off. Because what I wanted to show was, if you're basically under a rock, like right now, the scary thing, truly put, the scary thing about what's going on right now, if you are not aware, is basically we have a SCOTUS pick that's going out. Now, that SCOTUS pick, which is basically this here, when this is what I actually want to show. Well, sorry. So, about him, basically, as like I said, you have to be under a rock if you don't know about this. Where what's going on right now is that right now the Supreme Court has a problem. And here's the problem.
Breaking news, the president said today he interviewed 4 candidates this morning for a position that will shape the court and the country for decades. And this evening, sources tell CNN those 4 candidates are Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Raymond Kethledge, and Amol Thapar. Joining me now, CNN political commentator, former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania, and also just on the phone now, CNN legal analyst and Supreme Court biographer Joan Biskupic. And Joan, we just found out the 4 names of the people the president spoke with today. The names are not surprising insofar as they were on all of the short lists. But Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Raymond Kethledge, Amol Thapar, what jumps out to you?
Well, first of all, they're all young. They're people who are already on U.S. Courts of Appeals. In fact, 2 of them are individuals who President Trump named himself. Judge Barrett is 46. She's one of the youngest on the list, and President Trump chose her for the Chicago-based 7th Circuit Court of Appeals just last September. John, she's a former law clerk to Justice Antonin Scalia. She had been a law professor at Notre Dame, her alma mater. She was narrowly confirmed by the Senate by a vote of 55 to 43 last October, and only 3 Democrats supported her. One other point on her, John, is that some Democratic lawmakers expressed doubts that she would uphold Roe, and she got into kind of a conflict with Senator Dianne Feinstein about some of her religious writings. So there could be a flashpoint there if she's the nominee. The other one that I will mention right off the bat is Judge Brett Kavanaugh, who's 53 and sits on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Now, he's someone who was put on the appeals court here in Washington by George W. Bush. But he's a former law clerk to Justice Anthony Kennedy, so we'd have a nice, passing the baton from the man who's leading the bench. And then real quickly, just so the audience knows the others, Amol Thapar is another individual who President Trump named already to the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. He's actually a favorite of Mitch McConnell. He's from Kentucky. He's 49. He went to Berkeley Law School. And then finally, Raymond Kethledge, 51. He's also a President W. Bush appointee.
Okay, so how can I put this in so many ways about what you guys just saw? So it would be remiss to sit there and say that if you just heard all 4 picks of what was actually said, I don't know about you, but I would be highly concerned because all 4 of them have something in common. Trump likes them. I don't know about you, but everybody Trump has liked so far in history has always either had scandal, purchased their job, Betsy DeVos, or somehow linked to some corruption. Now, here's the thing that people are not understanding. If you don't know If you don't know what Roe versus Wade is, this is pretty much the reason why legal abortion is upheld. Now, the problem is that when you have a bunch of people who are extraordinarily religious and decide to get into politics and decide to make their religious law, they're trying to ban abortion. Now, if anybody wants to know about me, I'm always pro-choice. A woman has the right to do whatever she wants to do with her body because the choices and consequences are ultimately up to her. It's not going to make me lose any sleep at night if she decides to do whatever she wants to. Whereas if she does not want to keep a child, then she doesn't have to keep the child. She should be able to go to a clean and safe facility and have an operation done. The problem is that women's rights are literally being under attack. And this is why I say about women who are Republicans, how the fuck are you a part of a party that does not respect you? I mean, that would be like black people being for Republicans. Republican parties don't care about minorities, and yet they have black Republicans. To this day, I've yet to figure out the fuck how. And at the same time, women, literally, women have been shown time and time again who you women are Republicans. Why are you Republicans? Aside from the simple fact of the matter is that it gets you endorsements, money, and basically gets you a lot farther in life because, you know, being a career politician is kind of like being a career endorsed person, except you don't have to wear everything that you're being endorsed by on your sleeves. I mean, think about it. If everybody in politics was being endorsed, sponsored by somebody, and they had to wear like NASCAR jackets, we'd be able to see who's already bought and paid for it. Just saying. But it's the whole thing about Roe versus Wade is that Roe versus Wade has a threat of being overturned. So that means that they're trying to outlaw abortion outright, which means they will that basically means that women will lose the ability to basically have a choice in their own bodies, what it really comes down to. That's why Roe versus Wade, that's why Brown versus the Board of Education, that's why literally the last 20 Supreme Court decisions that have came down, including the mandatory law about the ACA, which is the Healthcare Law Act, where that also was a Supreme Court decision. All of those can be overturned by the Supreme Court. And that is scary when you have a Supreme Court that is pro-conservative. There's not a balance between Democrat and Republican judges. But when you have a full bench of Republican judges that basically outnumber the others, at that point you actually do have a death panel. You have the death panel that they were also scared of. So that's why I'm saying at this point, even though Justice Kennedy was actually appointed, but was actually shot down because his son was actually working in touch with the Deutsche Bank that actually gave Donald Trump a $1 billion loan, which is kind of interesting. A man that has failed business deals, yet get money, which to this day, I still don't know how he's able to pull this off. But at the same time, let's not also forget, the president himself, Agent Orange, is still under investigation. And here's the funny thing about that. If you've ever asked a Trump supporter what their feelings are, they'll always just say, well, he won the election. Why can't we just let it go? Why can we not let it go? Because much like climate change, the overwhelming number of people believe climate change is real. It is not cooling of the earth. It is not the earth on reset. Right now, in the words of Robin Williams, it is not global warming, it is cooking. The polar ice caps will now become a pool. Sea levels will rise, and eventually some cities that are now considered below sea level will probably be underwater sometime in the next 50 to 70 years. Climate change is real, people. But the thing about it is you have a bunch of people out there who still believe the world is flat. If you have a society out there that believes the world is flat, then of course you're going to have a whole bunch of people out there saying, well, climate change is a hoax. No, Al Gore actually did have a point. But the thing about it is, the reason why I bring that up and the reason why I want to make it relevant is basically because of this story, which also I want to bring up as well, which I think may actually shine some light as far as everybody else added to the overwhelming evidence.
Summary of its 16-month investigation of Russian election meddling, and it backs the assessment of the U.S. intelligence community, which found that Russia did interfere in the 2016 presidential race. CNN Justice correspondent Evan Perez is here with more. Evan, the Republican chairman of that committee, backs these findings.
That's right, Jim. This is a bipartisan finding that they've made, and the big news here is that the Senate Intelligence Committee is saying that they believe that the intelligence community was right, that their judgment was sound when they said that Vladimir Putin and the Russians were trying to help President Donald Trump win the election, and they were trying to hurt Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. Now, this shouldn't be that surprising. This should not be huge news, but it is simply because of what we've been dealing with over the last year and a half with Republicans on the House and other parts of here in Washington who have been trying to undermine those findings of the intelligence community. I'll read a part of what the report says that they've released today in the Senate. It says, since the publication of the intelligence community assessment, further details have come to light that bolster this assessment. And it also says that analysts were under no politically motivated pressure to reach any conclusion. So this finding, again, a bipartisan finding from the Senate Intelligence Committee, is going to undermine the argument that you've been hearing from the White House, from the president, and some of his allies on Capitol Hill, that really what the intelligence community was doing was politically motivated, that it was not as sound a judgment as they made it out to be.
And Evan, you alluded to this, but how does all of this compare to the House Intelligence Committee's view and to President Trump's view? This is definitely diametrically opposed to what you hear from President Trump almost every day. This is a witch hunt.
Right, exactly. This certainly undermines his talking point that this is a witch hunt, but I'll read you just a part of what the House found when they published their assessment of what the intelligence community findings were. And they said that they found, quote, significant intelligence tradecraft failings in the work of the intelligence community. And they said the headline from their report was that there was no collusion, which is obviously something that the intelligence community was not looking to assess when it released its findings in early 2017, Jim. We also know, of course, that the president has been tweeting about this just in the past few days. And he said, quote, Russia continues to say that they had nothing to do with meddling in our election. It appears that the president is still not sure whether or not his intelligence community's findings are the ones that he should take. He's still buying the assessment that's been made by the Russians and by their allies.
So, if you basically got the end of that, that is literally where we are. That now it is becoming more and more apparent. Now, you can take your conspiracy theories as you would like to. You would like to sit there and go, well, Will, all you've basically shown me is that a whole bunch of people still agree. But you know what? Trump is our president, and we should be happy that he's making America great again. No. It's literally stomach turning, because keep in mind, this has only been Trump's first term. Let's go down his list of accomplishments so far. He promised to build a wall. We don't see a wall. He promised to bring jobs. The last jobs report showed more jobs lost in the last quarter than we actually have in the last 8 years. Job creation, only if you're overseas. Oh, but he did do one thing. He had the small business people in mind. When he cut taxes on the rich and corporations. Yes, because somehow small businesses win when the top of the cream gets the best stuff. When they get the release. Let's not forget about the fact that the Senate just decided to go after Medicare's and Social Security's surplus of $2.3 billion. Let's not forget that they've now cut family assistance and veterans assistance and overall education. That's right. It is going to be harder for you to get your education, but the military budget is still increased, but they still can't tell you where almost close to $1.2 trillion, 1.2 trillion, not billion, trillion with the T. The Pentagon cannot tell you where $1.2 trillion went over the last 15 years. But their budget remains untouched. Matter of fact, it's increased. But they can't tell you. And this is actually where we are in all this. This is exactly why we're all just wondering, like, how in the hell on this day can we sit here and literally be proud? I mean, for me, it's a struggle. I can't be proud of this country. I think as much as I'm American, I can't be proud of this country. For what? And this is just being real. This is honestly just being real. How honestly can we be proud? How honestly can we celebrate this day, whether you celebrate the historical notation or just celebrate the day that you have off with good food? How, in a good sense, can we enjoy good barbecue or Chinese food, whatever your preference may be? But how could you honestly enjoy it when there are 2,000 other kids right now who can't be with their families on American soil? That is something that I never thought we would be able to say, that kids who are from immigrant families can't be with their families. And you want us there and say, oh, it's so terrible. This is happening in a third world country. No, it is happening in every ICE detention center along the U.S. That is fucked up. But enjoy that while you get your hot dog. But the one thing I do always promote in these times and days is civil disobedience. For those that don't know what that means civil disobedience is basically what you see when people stand up against the status quo. When it's just, we're not going to take it anymore. It's like we rise up as a group. We begin to fight back in so many ways. You know, kind of like how the NRA is now. The NRA, Milos Yampos, and Coulter, and Agent Orange are always inciting violence against journalists. And the shooting that just happened not too long off ago, where a guy who was also white, who also had access to guns, went into a newsroom and killed 5 people. When you incite words of violence, no matter how you cut the mustard on that, you are responsible. It would be like me saying, you know what would be funny? And here's the funny part. If one prominent black leader had sat there and said to every black person, every cop has got a green light on their back, and then cops start getting killed, is the person who said it held responsible? Yes, you incited violence. You sat there and said every cop has a green light on their back. So therefore, you are inciting violence. You can go back and see what Trump said. He said pretty much, my enemy is the mainstream media. If you see one, punch him in the face. I'll back you up. I'll bail you out. I'll get you legal representation. And Coulter said the same thing. Milos Yampos, literally the biggest piece of shit next to Donald Trump, turned around and sat there and said that journalists should be gunned down. When you incite violence, you should be held responsible for what you said and for the things that happen. And in this case, Trump and everybody else should be held responsible for what the gunman did, because that's the Trump effect. That is literally what I've been saying almost in every other podcast, honestly, is that this man has yet to face consequences of his actions. So therefore, everybody else, women calling the police on minority children, a guy who's a jogger decides to take vagrants' things and throw them in the river just because he can. A man insults immigrant workers at a deli because they're speaking a language he doesn't understand. A woman can turn around and sit there and can hurl racist insults and feel like she should not be held accountable because she's simply telling it like it is. That, my friends, is the Trump effect. And what I'm afraid of, and like I always said it best, there's nothing wrong with freedom of speech. Nothing wrong with freedom of speech. But you have the right to say whatever it is you want to say. You do not have the right to be absolved of the consequences that follow. Whatever you say, you better be prepared to handle what comes after next. Because a lot of people have said this, and I agree. Don't let your president get your ass whooped. Because that's the problem. When you incite violence, you pretty much are playing the dictator that you would like to be. Not that you are, but you would like to be. That's why Trump loves Kim Jong-il, but he won't meet anybody that he doesn't think is on his level, which is he loves the romanticizing idea of a dictator. But going back to the detention, I'm like this. I myself cannot be proud of our country when our country is detaining children. Keep in mind, we literally fought countries that detained and killed children, and yet now we become the very same villain that we swore to fight against. And it's amazing to me that a lot of people are okay with this. You're okay the fact that we're holding children and no one sees a problem with that. Well, I'm sorry, a majority of us see a problem with that. But for those that don't think it's okay, I personally wonder how fucked up is that. But what I do love about civil disobedience is that it reminds us that people out there are willing to fight. So this story that I'm about to show, which is actually a live story from what I've been told, is something that I think is honorable.
They're getting much closer, Phil. This is the closest they've been in the last 3 hours. And now she's moving again. She's attempting to go back under the shoe. Picture freezing up there a little bit, Phil. How is this going to play out, do you think? I mean, it seems like she has no choice but to come down.
They got her.
Our Bryn Gingras, we're watching this on a little bit of a delay. We are now watching the live pictures with that delay. We can now see the officers have her. They are now helping her put her shoes back on. It looks as if they may try to put a harness on her. Bryn,
Exactly.
this is such dangerous work.
This is really
Okay, so I know the video did catch it kind of in the middle of it all. So basically, in that case, a woman wanted to basically protest about basically, well, we've talked about that kids are just, she wanted to, about what's going on about kids being held hostage, things of that nature. She literally climbed, mind you, the base of the Statue of Liberty in New York. Okay, so for those who don't know, that's fucking impressive. If you've never seen the Statue of Liberty, to climb up to where the base of where the feet are, that shit ain't easy. Now, I understand it's a protest. She wasn't going to come down until migrant families were reunited, and it's noble. But there are going to be some people out there, and I love you people, and this is also the part I'm going to talk about. You people who are uncomfortable with protests. You people who are uncomfortable when an African-American player takes a knee during the national anthem. You people who are uncomfortable when a person doesn't stand during the national anthem. You people who are uncomfortable with pretty much understanding that we are not pledging allegiance to the flag in schools anymore. You are the ones that are getting all riled up. When you found out the Pledge of Allegiance is no longer said in schools, you guys freaked the hell out. How dare you? How dare you not do a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? Let me tell you something. I haven't pledged allegiance to the flag since 5th grade. Why are you expecting me to do blind allegiance to something I never signed up for? But I'm supposed to every day before the start of my school stand up, face the flag with my right hand over my heart, and recite something that I myself do not believe in, but I've been told to do so? No. But again, protest, when people say, I wish they wouldn't protest, that's the whole point of a protest. The whole point of a protest is to grab your attention, and it's to be uncomfortable. There's no such thing as a comfortable protest. Every protest is uncomfortable. Every protest is designed to get your attention, and every protest is supposed to shine a light on a subject of why they're doing it. Case in point, this woman, as dangerous it is to climb up to the base of the Statue of Liberty, I actually understand what she was trying to get at. She at this point, like many of us, we're fed up. Why are we detaining individuals that we shouldn't be detaining? Why are we simply not allowing these families to be together and be done with it? What is the whole point of holding children? That's the point that no one can seem to answer. Why the fuck are we holding children? And that's the thing that no one either will answer or refuses to answer, or just simply wants to sweep it under the rug and hope to God that nobody brings it back up. That's the truth. Like, nobody wants to sit there and just go, well, here's the reason why. No, that's not. I mean, truth be told, if we really looked at it and really asked those questions, I would wonder, are we honestly going to get an answer? Are we honestly going to get an answer? Are we honestly going to get actual movement on that? Because that's where I am on that. That's where I am to the point where it's like, how can we honestly call ourselves the best country in the world, which some people still do. And I'm along the lines of there is no evidence to support that America is the greatest country in the world. In anything, we are the greatest third world country pretending to be a first world country. I mean, other countries and nations have done it better than us and figured it out faster than us. Yet with all our progression, with all our ability, with all our technology, here we are still set over arguing over a woman's rights, human rights, civil rights, basically wealth distribution, which to me is by far the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Wealth isn't wealth. I remember seeing this on a meme on Facebook, and I agree with it completely. Wealth is not designed to show how wealthy a country is by its richest person. Wealth in a country is designed to show how the person at the bottom of the totem pole is doing. Now, I'm not saying that now get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody in the U.S. should be equal as far as being rich. Because of capitalism, because of our wealth, because of our distribution system, and because of inaccurate pay raises across the board, the simple fact of introducing union busting techniques and right to work states, which limit exactly what a person gets, while increase of cost of everything that's purchased is going up, yet your paycheck is staying the same, and it's causing individuals to work more than one job just to make ends meet, while the top percent still get the best of it all. It is literally a machine that's running on a derailed train, literally with a combustible engine that's bound to go at any time. But we're going to keep stoking that fire until we either run out of track or this thing goes sideways. You're basically designing the second too big to fail, and this time it will, like its predecessor, will fail. When the Glass-Steagall Act that we had, which basically separated the commercial banks from small-time banks, when that was erased, Wall Street got filled with house money. Wall Street lost. Then that became the Dodd-Frank Act, which basically was replacing Glass-Steagall, which then again put in the line that prevents what happened with the recession. Now, it's been removed again. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. Wall Street again will play with house money, and last time I checked, nobody ever wins twice at the same crap table in Las Vegas. Just saying. But when it comes down to all of those things, it is literally where you can see where we are. And it's like, how can we call our country great when it comes down to two things? That we literally have a fascist government that's wanting to play dictator, and we're basically the greatest group. We right now are holding children hostage. We're not the heroes in the story. Our country has become the villain. And it's a villain, and in a villain's mind, they are the heroes of their own story. And that's where we end. And actually, that's what's sad about it. Like I said, going back again to the Trump effect, where I've always said it best. And I want to tell this story before we get to, I like to call, looking at Donald Trump's quotes and then making fun of them. But this other story did catch my eye, that it always reminds me of, no matter what, as a person of color, you can always run into we have the right to refuse service. It's happened to me a couple of times in Alabama. It's happened to me in Mississippi. It's happened to me, I want to say, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. Yeah, only those three states that I ever went to a gas station or a diner. And literally I was told that I have the right to refuse service to you. And they never said a reason why. And again, they don't have to. But I know the score. You see me, you see the hair, you see the skin color, and you can sit there and go, I can use the rights against us. Now, here's the funny part. We just had a story not so long ago where Supreme Court had ruled that a baker did not have to bake a cake for a gay couple. Now, again, I was on the side of business. You have the right to refuse service to anyone. That is your right as a business owner. It is also exactly how you kill your business. That is business suicide 101, is when you sit there and you turn away business and not take that opportunity and make it financially productive and great for you. So the reason why I say that is because of this story that I'm about to bring up, where literally, and I just when I look at this, I just want to sit there and just cringe. Now, you can tell from the first one, Black fraternity group says Alabama restaurant refused to host their event, citing problems with your kind. So when you say your kind, I don't know about you, but look at what's there. Sure, it's a bunch of men from Kappa Alpha Psi. Now, I'm not much for fraternities. There are good ones, as there are not so good ones. But from my understanding, from the looks of it, it's just a group that's wanting to basically congregate and basically go to where they can enjoy themselves. But they went to a certain restaurant where they were told, we've had problems with your kind before, and they were denied being allowed into the restaurant. Now, if anyone sits there and says this kind of thing, we've had problems with your kind. Here's my thing about that. I've always said it best that if I ever find myself in a situation where I'm dealing with someone or I'm dealing with a company and they simply don't like me just because simple fact I'm Black, I make it a rule. Never go to them again. I don't care if I have to go out of country to go find what I'm looking for. It is my rule to never use them again. Why? Because they've made their point clear. I mean, think about it for a second. For all those who are my age, could you remember when Tommy Hilfiger first came out and Black people and minorities love wearing Tommy? Still some do, still some too wear Tommy Hilfiger to this day. But do you remember what the designer for Tommy Hilfiger said for himself? Anybody? I did not design these clothes for Black people. Yes, you can look that up. It was said. When he turned around and sat there and said, I did not design these clothes for Black people, and it started getting out there, oh, now all of a sudden we're going to boycott Tommy Hilfiger. Same thing with Cristal. For all those who watch hip hop from the late 99 into the 2000s and 10s, not trying to cite Cash Money, but that seemed appropriate. Remember when Cristal was all they could talk about? And what did the makers of Cristal say? We didn't make this for Black people. Again, it was said, next thing you know, you never saw Cristal again. Cristal disappeared just like Hypnotic, just like Grey Goose, just like take your pick, every other drink in the hip hop era disappeared. But the point I'm making is that they loved the consumership of us, but they didn't make it for us. So when I see restaurants like this, I turn around and say, all right, you don't want my money. I mean, yeah, I'm Black, my money's still green, but you don't want my kind there because, again, you're willing to risk losing out on $1 for your twisted privileges, or your twisted morality and lack of business sense. But again, this is the Trump effect. This is exactly what I'm talking about when folks want to sit there and go, if he can do without consequence, so can I. When it's not the truth. You can't do what Agent Orange is doing and expect not to get done and expect not to get burned. Just like the restaurant Houston's, which is actually closed down now because guess what? They wouldn't serve Black people. And what was the problem? They turned around and literally got shut down after a while. So, what brings me to the other point of the last thing that we'll look at, and I think it'll be kind of interesting, where, like I said, July 4th, if you're listening to this video, you've probably heard some fireworks and stuff going off. Like I said, for me, I was just happy to spend time with friends and family and, eat good food. And for me, fireworks is just, But then again, that's my mood toward this week. Honestly, that's my mood on this 4th. My mood on this 4th is, I'm going to make the best of this day. But my mind is still, how can we call ourselves what we are when everything else is still going on? How can we sit there and celebrate this day when you have all of this shit out there still going on? It's kind of like saying, oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it eventually. But for right now, let's just enjoy it. I mean, don't get me wrong. We all need a break from reality. I understand that more than most. But maybe it's just me, that I can't really take this day and relax when a child is sitting somewhere in a place they don't recognize and they're not near their parents. I can't sit there and say I could enjoy this day when a veteran who could use some real medical and financial assistance won't get it because a congressman believes that increasing the Pentagon's budget doesn't mean that you should increase their pay or assistance. I can't enjoy this day because, well, for lack of better words, how can we sit there and say America is great when reality, America is shit for most of us? But you know what's so interesting about today, though? And this is not to go into Debbie Downer. I'm also trying to put a positive spin on this, but really that's the reality of it. And I've always said on these podcasts, my goal is to be honestly 100% honesty and real in everything I'm saying. And for me, I know that I just can't feel like today should be a celebration day because it's honestly not. You can fire off all the fireworks, you can grill all the hot dogs, ribs, steaks, pork, slow butts you can, but when it really comes down to it, we're still in the same hole. But again, but the funny part is, if you look at Trump's Twitter page, this is it. You know what he'll tell you? Yeah, this is what and also another thing which I don't understand. Dear Twitter, how the fuck have you not canceled this man's account already? I mean, seriously, he talks through Twitter. If you ban him from Twitter, you force him to talk in public. It's not that fucking hard. But again, it's almost like Trump thinks this is The Apprentice, except that now he has access to shit. But again, this is what I'm going for. Like, take for instance, look at like this most recent tweet. The OPEC monopoly must remember that gas prices are up and they're doing very little to help. If anything, they are driving prices higher as the U.S. defends many of its members for very little dollars. This must be a two-way street. Reduce pricing now. For all those who know who OPEC is the foreign oil industry for basically selling crude oil to the U.S. Again, the Middle East is the biggest purveyor of oil to us. Keep in mind that Trump just pissed them off by increasing tariffs. So you know what I talked about when I said going back to the fact that he blames the previous administration for the shit that he's in? That's like, again, he caused the Midwest in the Middle East to increase, but yet he's now going to blame them for the fact they're driving up prices. No, genius, your tariff war is the reason why prices are up across the fucking board. And also, it's kind of funny where he goes, after a video, which I'm pretty sure is mostly bullshit, is where he goes, Happy 4th of July. Our country is doing great. And here's the one thing about con men. Con men really don't tell you bad news. They tell you the current news, but dress it up to where it's special. They dress it up to where it's great. And what he has done right now, our country is doing great. No, the fuck it's not, Donald. I don't know what you're not looking at. But again, we can keep going where, this was back on July 3rd. Tomorrow, our families across the nation gather to celebrate 4th of July as we do. We think of the men and women serving overseas this very moment, far away from their families, protecting America. And we will thank God for blessing us with these incredible heroes. Now, I can look at that tweet and I can just see a whole bunch of veterans going bullshit. Because here's the one thing when I hear, we want to thank the men and women overseas. We want to thank the men and women who are doing exactly what we couldn't do. If you really want to thank veterans, get them the fucking help they need. Get them the fucking assistance they need. Get them exactly what they need when they come back so they're actually better. Don't sit there and want to sit there and send them off to war, and then when they come back, you don't want to take care of them. That's kind of like you basically being a pimp for a war, but you don't like it when the hoe comes back and the hoe's fucked up. But you don't want to take care of the hoe. You just want to send the next fresh batch of babyface soldiers out there to a war that didn't need to happen because someone else is profiting off of it, and possibly military-industrial complex. So, I mean, I can keep going. I'll go another one where this is why I say where Trump goes into this whole thing of just of misdirection. Tonight we gather to celebrate the greatest men and women who make freedom possible, our brave service members, our wonderful veterans for 242 years American independence. Does it not bother anybody that we've been at war for the majority of the existence of our nation? That alone should be that alone should make you wonder really where we're at with this. Because all he pretty much did was pretty much try in some ways to somehow make it about him. He always does. And I mean, like I said, he goes down where he goes, like, you don't believe me? Check this one out. Thank you, Governor Jim Justice, for tonight. It was my great honor to attend the Greenbrier Classic Salute to Service Dinner in West Virginia. My great honor. The man makes it about him. He makes it about him. And that alone should tell you exactly where we are in this. Now, I can keep going down the list of Trump, but really it's just honestly bullshit. And honestly not to give you guys stress fractures, because if you're like me, you were calling bullshit a long time ago throughout this whole fucking thing when it came to Trump. But it's funny where I was telling somebody, it was literally shit, I can't think of the director's name to save my life right now, because he was actually on Bill Maher this last week. Michael, crap. It's kind of sad that I should remember him because he did Bowling for Columbine, and I can't think of the director's name to save my life. But he brings up a wonderful point about Trump, that why didn't we stop him when this fascist was just a simple narrative? It was easy to sit there and say that we could have stopped him when we thought it was funny. But when we realized it wasn't a joke, it was too late and he was already sworn in. That's how fascism works. It doesn't hit you all at once. It comes in segments. But by the time you catch up, there's nothing left for you to do except to accept it. Now, I'm not saying we should accept it. I'm saying for the simple fact of the matter is just that in order for us to understand Michael Moore, thank you, Vaughn. Michael Moore, not Michael Bay, because Michael Bay is the destroyer of childhood dreams. Because of Michael Bay, that's the reason why we'll never get a good Transformers movie. But that's not what I'm trying to get into. But thank you, Michael Moore. That jogged my head. So Michael Moore was actually on Bill Maher, and he was the one bringing up how fascism works. And when you have a narcissistic guy, much like Agent Orange, he always tries to make it about him, but at the same time, he tries to make it in such a way. Michael Moore. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Thomas. But at the same time, it was along the lines of just what he said. It's just that we that were informative and forward thinking sat there and saw the problem, and we're like, truly, this can't happen. Truly, this can't happen. Truly, this can't be us. There has to be something that prevents this from happening. The problem is when you have an idiot that's at the front of the lines, other idiots see him, and it's almost like, let's get behind him because he's me. And that's what we got to. I mean, think about the protest that just not happened too far off on University of Berkeley, California, Kansas. University of Berkeley, where they had the first protest that was done by the alt-right ended in a riot. Every other protest that's been out there has not ended without violence, without a riot. The first one done by protesters that are pro-Trump ends in a riot. Need I say more about who's exactly inciting violence and who's not? So when it really comes down to all these things, when you really look at it, of how the hell we got here, it's simple. I mean, we may have gotten to the 4th. Don't get me wrong. We've gotten to the 4th of July. And I'm happy about that, but I'm also sad about that. Because I look at, anybody who doesn't have a soul is not going to sit there and say about those kids. Anybody who doesn't have a soul is not going to look at a veteran and instead of saying thank you for your service, which you should do, or you should ask the veteran how to honor them. Because a lot of them hear thank you for your service, and as much as they do dig it, they think it's more like lip service, like you have to do. So, if you see a veteran walking around or if they introduce themselves as a veteran, shake their hands and say, just ask them. I want to do more than just say thank you for your service. I want to ask you, what can I do to show you that you're appreciated? And they'll tell you. 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you exactly. Like, from my experience, it's always, hey, buy me a drink. Shit, I bought him a 6-pack. Or I bought him, bought his meal, or just something of that nature. To me, it's on the lines of, this is how I say thank you to just saying thank you for your service, because you should get more. Those immigrant children should be allowed to be with their families regardless. We should actually be able to rise up and finally tell Agent Orange and his first hostage wife, please, oh please, get the fuck out the White House. Because at this point, you are leading us into World War III, Agent Orange edition. You are leading us into recession because you have removed every safeguard that prevents a fallout. Your tariff war has increased prices so high that individuals will literally have to take on additional hours on a part-time job or another part-time job to simply make ends meet, because your tariff war has increased prices on everything. But you're also the same guy who says workers should be paid less to be more competitive. Workers should be paid less to be more competitive, but you're perfectly okay with raising prices everywhere else. And Vaughn, you're right. Alt Control Delete their ass. I wish I could. And that's the thing about it. The one thing about the alt-right and nationalists and Aryan Nation and KKK is that they will sit there and support Trump. The problem is, Trump will never denounce them. People always keep saying, when is Agent Orange going to denounce them? He never will. That's his people. You're not going to denounce your voter base. What the fuck's wrong with you? You're not going to do that. So again, it's literally of how the frack we got here is because this train derailed a long time ago. Like I said, we are literally feeding a derailed train with a combustible engine that either we're going to run out of real estate or that engine's going to go first. But whatever happens is going to be a fiery crash that's going to take us all with it. And all we can sit there and say is we hope we can get to midterms, so finally we can actually have a decent Senate and House Republicans, and maybe, just maybe, we can finally let Mueller do what he's been wanting to do the entire goddamn time. Hand Trump his walking papers. It's a dream. And November is still a good 4 months off. But keep in mind, Trump's only had literally a little over a year and almost going into a year and 8 months. And you've seen the damage this man does. Imagine if he had the actual 8 years to do this. But honestly, that's how we got the frack we got here. So all we can do at this point is enjoy the hot dogs and whatnot. But at this point, I will honestly say this and not take a line from the newsroom, which if you haven't seen the newsroom, you honestly should watch it. But I'll go ahead and say it. America is not the greatest country in the world. Doesn't mean that we can be, but we could be. But that means that we have to acknowledge a lot of the problems we're dealing with and actually solve them and stop kicking the can down the road. But until then, that's how the frack we got here. So we're going to end it there. Thank you all who are watching this today. I know this was kind of sudden, but I forgot it was Wednesday, and I almost forgot to actually post today. So again, my apologies. I promise to be better about it next Wednesday. So just a little shameless plugging. My podcast is the only one I still have my off limits, where nothing is off limits, which will be broadcasting this Friday. I hope to have more people on at this time. I'm still working that part out, but it still will be Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Also, my buddy Vaughn, who's also watching this podcast right now, has also his. We'll start with the I Get That Reference, which is just a variety of just news, topics, video games, just things of that nature. That is usually it's a weekly episodic podcast that kind of varies on the day-to-day. Vaughn, please put down there when that happens, because I'm kind of brain dead on when that actually posts right now. He also has Rhythmness, where you can reminisce over the rhythm, where he does do reviews of albums that he's seen, and we can talk about it. and he'll basically put that down there too. Also, he has the random conversation with Uncle Beezy, which usually happen in the mornings, just random things that you can speak about with him, and then we all just go from there. Oh, and let me now also give my brother Trace, who also has his show called The Bump Down, which is also episodic, but all of our shows can be found under the group I Get That Reference. Simply type in I Get That Reference if you have Facebook, which would be weird if you don't have it by now, because I'm almost certain everybody's got a Facebook page. But if you want to join our group, just simply go to Facebook, type in the words I Get That Reference, will be the first thing that pops up. And anybody can join. It is welcome to all. The only thing that we ask is that you just be participant. And you can talk about anything that comes to mind. We'll all want to rap with you. I mean, our whole thing is about just increasing the pond, increasing the fish in the pond, and just getting to know each other and just be one big community. That's the big ass thing about it. So as long as you want to be active and talk there, that's cool. But at the end of all this, I know what I said today may not jive well with a lot of so-called Americans, but it's hard to actually be American without understanding that our country is actually shit right now, and that a lot of things that we're doing we cannot be proud of enough to celebrate a day of our independence when ourselves were under British hostile, when we were under British rule, and yet at the same time we're actually being the villains to other people. So it's hard to sit there and enjoy this food. Now, if you can enjoy it, be cool. If you got fireworks, light them up. If you're drinking, be safe, because at this point in time, just don't be an idiot. We've already got enough of those in the White House already. But this has basically been how the Frack We Got Here for the 4th of July, 2008. I'm Will Buchanan. Thank you all guys for listening. And like I said, if you like what we said, if you like what I said, let me know. If you hate it, let me know. If you just want to say fuck you, Will. Hey, at least I know you're watching, but let me know. But I'm trying to make this thing better as far as on topic, things of that nature. If there's things that you want to see discussed during the Frack We Got Here podcast, just simply let me know. We go from there. Until then, I know it's been a crappy year. It's been a crappy couple of years under Trump, but maybe it gets better. One can be hopeful. But again, guys, thanks for listening and watching. I certainly appreciate it. Have a good night. Peace.